Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. AMC Stock is down over 2% today. Now, we're not getting any company-specific news. We're not getting any news around the court situation, and nothing else besides that really matters. But we are getting the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey that came in much better than expectations, and we are still kind of comprehending where the short interest is for AMC because it's at a record for this whole entire trade so far. It's never been this high. AMC has never been this short. This sets us up for an obvious short squeeze. Now, let's go ahead and get into all of this information that you need to know that's happening in the markets today, as well as with AMC stock at the time of recording this video. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section if you have not done so already. Now, if you guys also want to elevate your trading and take it to the next level and come trade with us live in real time, ask me questions, interact with the trading community. You guys have heard their names before. I've mentioned them in these videos. They are awesome individuals that you guys could definitely learn a lot from. Come join us. Link down below in the description of this video. Nonetheless, let's dive into it. So AMC stock is down about 2.48% at the time of recording this video. You actually started off the day quite strong. AMC stock hit a high of $4.59 per share. At the time of recording this video, you have fallen more than 20 cents. You're sitting at $4.33 per share. That is because the broader markets, the S&P 500 itself, has done the same thing. It started off really strong and is now starting to kind of fall apart here. And there's no real obvious reason, rhyme or reason why this is happening today. In fact, you have actually gotten some pretty good news from the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. Let's go ahead and give you guys a rundown of what these numbers came out as, because they were pretty damn good. Michigan Consumer Sentiment for July. This is a survey that's been going for 65, 70 plus years. It's a very respected and well-run survey from the University of Michigan. And I live in Michigan, so it's definitely pretty popular. Now, the headline number was expected to come in at 65.5. Now, Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, it basically can give you a guide to how consumers are feeling. If consumers are pessimistic, then they might spend less money. They might not do as much shopping. They might be trying to save a little bit more. If this number were to come in higher, it shows maybe people are optimistic. Maybe people are spending money. Maybe they expect, good things to come in the economy. Well, this number, are you ready? Came in at 72.6. Again, your expectation was 65.5. So this was the biggest beat to consumer sentiment that we have seen in a very long time. This is a huge jump. Take a look at this chart. This is historically what we have seen in the past year with consumer sentiment. And this is much higher than any other reading that we have gotten in the last year. In the last 5 years, this is the highest reading since definitely all of 2022. You got to go back here to 2021 to get a consumer sentiment report that is this optimistic. And if we go ahead and look at inflation expectations, that's also the thing that people care about with this, because inflation expectations, think about this in terms of like a restaurant owner, right? If people start to expect higher prices and higher inflation, well, that restaurant owner might opt to change the price of their pizza next year and raise the price a little bit, or a burrito, or whatever else food it is. We can get going on food all day long. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you get the idea. They could just raise prices if people expect higher prices. And this isn't just for restaurants. Obviously, it's for everything else. Now, inflation expectations for the 1 year actually went up a little bit today. They went up to 3.4%. Last month's reading was 3.3%. Now, this is not an area of concern because the 1 year inflation expectations have been dropping for a long time now. I mean, ever since the highs of inflation that we actually seen, inflation expectations 1 year out have been falling. So that's not much of a problem. Now, 5-year inflation expectations, those are a little bit more problemsome because you were steady throughout the entire inflation wave that we had seen in 2022 at about 2.9%. And now they're actually starting to go up again. And if there was one reason why you're seeing market downside, it's probably this. The inflation expectations went from 2.9%, jumped to 3% in April, jumped to 3.1% in May, went down to 3% in June, and now they're back up to 3.1%, the highest level that you have seen in the past year. You're not breaking out of this level, but you're not falling as well. So there is clearly an kind of upside bias to this 5-year inflation expectation chart, and you are at the highest level that you have seen in the last 10 years. In the last 25 years, the highest point that you've really seen was about 3.2%. You did see this move to 3.4% right before the global financial crisis. So you're right there, pretty close to your 25-year highs for 5-year inflation expectations. Not such a positive thing for the course of inflation. But again, inflation has been falling, so this is probably not such a big problem. Now, as far as everything else, you really had bank earnings, and that's the big story. Bank earnings were better than expected, basically across the board. I think people had pretty low expectations heading into bank earnings, and we obviously beat those expectations, as we typically do when there's low expectations. So this was definitely a positive thing on the day that banks did not have bad earnings. It's a better sign than not for tech earnings that start next week. Stocks like Tesla, as well as some other tech names, will report earnings. And then that following week, that's where you're going to get your big names, such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon, so on and so forth. So that's the next big catalyst we have for the broad markets. Now, for AMC Stock, the one thing and the only thing that matters for AMC is this court date. Now, we don't know what's essentially going on with this court situation. There was someone at the last court date that was supposed to speak but never showed up. He was supposed to object to this settlement. The judge adjourned and said, "We're done for the day. We're gonna give this guy a chance to make it here." And we haven't really heard anything after that. The judge said she will make her final decision. She won't announce it ahead of time. She'll just make it. So that set us up for, hey, over the next couple of weeks, really at any time though, we should be getting this ruling from the courts. Now, at the same time as this, the short sellers have taken every opportunity they can to short AMC stock into the ground. And that's exactly what they've been doing. The short interest is now at the highest level that it has been at by far in over 2 years. The official short interest report just came out, and you are almost at 29% short interest off free float. 28.8% to be more specific. This is absolutely insane. Because why? Well, a lot of the time, and this is where I kind of have a hard time reasoning with this and thinking that AMC's in for a down move. I firmly expect AMC to be in for a pretty sizable up move, potentially even seeing the MOAS around this court situation. Because when I think about this logically, a lot of catalysts that are bad are usually just bad. They usually don't have a positive outcome to them. Well, with this court date, with this court proceeding, you have a clear negative catalyst, and that is obviously, the courts and the final decision and the dilution and all of that we could face from the courts. But what's the positive? It's raising billions and billions of dollars. If you had a short thesis on AMC, that is 100% crushed after AMC raises these billions and billions of dollars. So in those terms, usually when that's the case, usually when there is some form of negative catalyst, but also positive catalyst mixed in there, Usually what happens is people fear the negative up until the catalyst. And then once the catalyst is actually here, people start to say, hey, now what's the positive? And they start to react to the positive more than the negative. And I think that's what's going to happen with AMC. I think initially people, obviously, heading into this, court ruling, AMC stock is trading at the lower end range. But I think after the courts make their decision, people are going to say, hey, this is actually a very positive for AMC. And some of the shorts are probably, at that point, going to start to get squeezed out of short positions, right? Because I expect AMC would rally. And when you're at almost 30% of the float that's sold short legally, not to mention the market maker shorts or any potential illegal shorting, you're well over 45-50% of the float that is sold short. If you factor in the float that we own, I mean, you could be over 100% short right now. That's a very real possibility, right? Because it's all based on the size of the float, right? If just for an example here, if you have still, call it 70-80% of retail that owns 70-80% of the float, well, that is essentially the float that's locked up. So just for rough numbers here, call it retail owns 400 million shares, about 80% of the float. If we say the float's around 500 million shares. I know it's a little bit higher than that, but for simple math's sake. We own 400 million shares, right? That's what we own. So if there's 148.7 million shares that are sold short, well, if there's only 100 million shares that is actually trading, you're 150% short, right? 100 million divided by 150 million. You're 150% short. Well, what if you add the market maker shorts or some of the, synthetic shorts and other things that we've talked about over the years? You could be over 200% short in AMC stock. And that's based on retail owning a vast majority of the float that is not trading this, more or less. And that's exactly what happened with GME. So many other people own the stock that you got this big short interest number, and the amount of the float that was actually trading was so small. I mean, GME was over 100% short. That's likely the same story that we're in for AMC, but on a much bigger level. So when you are that short and you start to get a rally in AMC, especially as a lot of your retail investors hold on to their shares, I mean, that creates a big problem for hedge funds and can create a lot of that upside volatility. Now, if we look at the cost of borrow fees are over 650% from Interactive Brokers. They're very volatile. What we seen yesterday was 974%. Today, it's over 650%. It's likely closer to that 900% level here today. Maybe 800% level. Still, doesn't matter. They're very high. Cost of borrow average from Ortex at about 500%. Cost of borrow max 1,040%. And the short interest of free float is estimated at 27.97%, with 144 million shares that are currently sold short. If we take a look at the option activity here today, 11 orders totaling $1.19 million. Get it? Positive order value of 0%. That's something else that I think a lot of you need to consider as well. The option activity is so negative right now. There's $5, $10, $15 million trades being placed on AMC that are negative. If you just don't see that materialize, then hedge funds are not only on the wrong side of the shorts, right, and actually shorting the stock, they're on the wrong side of their option trades as well. And that creates a very kind of bad situation for the short sellers. And that can create a lot more volatility. Now, at the time of recording this video, AMC stock is down 2.14%, trading at $4.34 per share. You're holding that 8-day moving average level of support at $4.32 per share. So you want to see if that holds up throughout the rest of the day today. Overall, I mean, not a big move that we're seeing today. Really just digesting some of this information, getting ready for the court's ultimate decision. I thought that maybe it could have happened today, but it looks like it's probably going to be a next week kind of event. So that is what I have for you guys here in this video. Let me know what you guys think about the short interest of AMC potentially being over 100%, as high as 200 or 300%. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel on your way out as well. Again, if you guys want to come trade with us live in real time, link down below in the description of this video. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.